Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So let's begin our session with the wonderful quote. In the long term, artificial intelligence and automation are going to be taking over so much of what gives human a feeling of purpose. So, for starting a new chapter of learning, I, Pratiksha Rai, being your host for the today's event, I want to extend a very warm welcome to all of you present here. I hope you all are doing amazing. As we know that AI focuses on the development of algorithms and statistical models that enable computers to perform tasks without explicit programming. Deep learning, a type of machine learning, has gained prominence with the use of neural networks, enabling the processing of complex data. The transformation of AI is closely tied to the availability and utilization of massive amount of data. The more data AI systems have access to, the better they can learn and improve their performance. On the behalf of the whole SEMS family, I welcome you all for today's international webinar on the topic the transformation of AI. And to add our guest of honor and today's speaker, Mr. John Farrell. It is a great honor to have you with us, sir. We are grateful for your presence.
Thank you,
Now,
Pratiksha.
now, let me introduce today's speaker, Mr. John Farrell, to you all. He is a seasoned business coach with over 15 years of experience in empowering individuals and businesses to achieve personal and financial growth, and also business coach, trainer, and speaker with a strong track record of working independently and consistently achieving targets and goals. In his previous roles, he excelled in developing and managing online advertising campaigns, contributing to business growth and increased income. He possesses the skills to conduct effective interviews following provided scripts as part of hiring process. Moreover, his expertise extends to mentorship and guidance, fostering the personal and professional growth of team members. His passion for entrepreneurship and business development, combined with his positive and professional leadership skills, make him a valuable addition to any organization. He is equipped with the necessary tools for remote work and embraces freedom, flexibility, and global connectivity. With a desire for continuous learning and improvement, he eagerly seeks opportunities to contribute his expertise to organizations that value creativity, unconventional thinking, and a result driven approach. His unique cultural perspective enriches his coaching ability, making him an ideal candidate for roles that require coaching skill and a dedication to team growth and success. And he, Director of Interactive Business Communication and Director of the New Zealand Chamber of Commerce, is excited to share his insights and experience as a speaker, inspiring others to reach their full potential. Now, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Pratiksha. Is that how I pronounce it? Pratiksha? Yes.
Yeah, Pratiksha, sir.
Pratiksha. I hope I can live up to that. That was quite an introduction. And I trust you wrote it all yourself. You didn't use AI or ChatGPT to write it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't need to introduce myself now. I've been so well introduced there. So let's jump straight into it. AI, generative AI. Let me share my screen here. So I don't want to get too much into the sort of the technical part of what AI is. I think it's really important to take AI and be able to use it for something rather than just a new gimmick. You know, they told us when computers first came out, I'm old enough to remember when they first came out, that, you know, computers are going to save us all this time and we're going to have, you know, extra weekends. And that didn't happen. It went the other way. We got more work to do. And I can see AI heading down that route as well. So I want to talk about today some of the background where AI is today, or well, yesterday and this morning. Where it is tomorrow is a whole nother story. It's moving so fast. And then how we can use what's available to us today without getting overwhelmed. I think the thing that comes up for me with AI is FOMO, the fear of missing out. Everybody's jumping in, and it's not actually that easy to do, to use, to utilize. It does take a little bit of a technique, a little bit of an understanding. So artificial intelligence, let's go back to, let's go to where it started. artificial intelligence isn't something that's been around for sort of the last 6 months or the last 12 months. It's been around for a long time. The thing is with AI, especially text and ChatGPT, that form of AI, it's accelerated. The timeline's accelerated really fast. So we look there, GPT-2, GPT-3, the forerunners for what we have today, where they weren't learning models. So you had to put stuff in and it would learn from what you put in. The big change came with ChatGPT 3, which came out in 2022, which is like last year, was that it became self-learning. And although ChatGPT 3.5 now is still, there is still it isn't completely up to date. They've put a sort of a block on it up until a year ago. So it's basically gone through the internet and sucked up everything in the internet up until about a year ago. So it's not completely up to date. It won't be able to talk about the conflict in the Middle East at the moment. It won't have knowledge of that. There are ways around that, but ChatGPT is the one mostly used, and it has a bit of a block. But that was only last year. Late last year, most people never heard about it. For myself, I went, probably would have been February. I was on a training and this guy, he just mentioned this new thing that he found. It was writing his text for him. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. So jumped on. That was February this year. That was ChatGPT 3. It's evolved a little bit since then to ChatC, we call it, ChatC 3.5, which is an extension on. Now, a lot of this stuff is still free. And the reason that ChatGPT accelerated and exploded so fast was it was free. At any one moment now, today, there is more than 7 million people actively using it in the moment. And they're all putting information in. So this database has exploded. And it went really fast. I don't have the timelines on it, but it was like Netflix got to 1 million users in 3 months. ChatGPT 3 got to 1 million users in 5 days. It's been taken on so much more, so much faster than anything else in history. Now, ChatGPT 3.5 is what we still use today, is the free version. And that's all I use. I don't really have any problems with it. It gives me most of what I need to know. ChatGPT 4, and I think it's 4.0, but it might have upgraded in the last couple of weeks or months, is the paid for version. It's about 20% faster. It has access to a bit more information, but yeah, not really. So, and the paid for version, I think it's about $20, $22 a month, which is not an insignificant amount of money, but when I can get ChatGPT 3 for free, why would I pay the extra? I'm not saying that you shouldn't pay the extra. It does have a lot of add-ins to it. What's happened, ChatGPT came out. Now, that was a text operation. And then with add-ons, so you have ChatGPT, but you can get add-ons to it. You can get it to do different things. Now, ChatGPT was sort of accelerated so fast, and the other big companies, Microsoft, Google, said, well, we can't let that company get ahead of us because, if Google, which is a search engine, people started using ChatGPT as a search engine, and 7 million people in the moment are using ChatGPT. Suddenly, that's going to really break into Google's market. So both Google, Microsoft had to jump on board, and they're spending billions of dollars. And it's one of those challenges that all companies have got. Nobody really knows where it's going to go. And even Elon Musk says, he's the most predominant one that says this, we don't know where it's going to go, but I can't afford to be not at the front of it. So Google, Microsoft, Elon Musk, I think Elon Musk has just launched his own equivalent to ChatGPT. They've jumped in and they don't know where it's going, but they're spending billions of dollars because they can't afford to miss the boat. I don't know. We're all old enough here to remember Netscape and Hotmail. No, I still have a Hotmail address. Nobody uses Hotmail anymore. And Netscape was the contender web platform, but it got absorbed. It's disappeared. And that could easily happen with Google. This is why they jumped into it. Microsoft is a little bit bigger, a little bit more robust, but still it was going to affect them. So they've jumped on board. Now, Microsoft bought ChatGPT 3. So when you go into Microsoft Bing, it's connected to ChatGPT. So there's a lot of these companies are connecting. But there's several platforms to use. The one that we know the most, the one that's most used is ChatGPT because they were the first horse out of the gate, if you like. Everyone else is playing catch up. Bard is Microsoft. Bing's Microsoft. Bard is the Google equivalent. Claude 2 is an interesting one. That's an independent from Anthropic. Now, all of those four, you can ask it a question and it will give you an answer. You can ask it to reassess text. and it will reassess it. It will go onto the internet. It will pull off text from all sorts of different places, and it will create a newsletter for you, an email for you. They all do it slightly differently. There is a bit of an argument at the moment that ChatGPT is, I don't know the word for it, it's not overwhelmed, but it's getting so much information on such a broad scope that it's actually starting to not give 100% the best answers anymore. And Claude is starting to be the one that's stepping up. Now, just as a side note here, this is today. What happened yesterday, literally what happened yesterday in AI is old news. It's moving so fast, people are not sure where it's going to go, that you really have to keep up with it. ChatGPT AI started to develop an emotional intelligence a couple of weeks ago. So before, when I used to ask it a question, I'd say, so I've got this person coming in to see me and they've got a PhD in medicine. Can you give me 5 questions that I can ask them? And it'd give me 5 questions and the answers. Now, I'd say I've got this person coming in, they've got a PhD in medicine, I want 5 questions, and I want to find out the real heart, really who they are. So I'm actually tagging onto my prompts more emotive leading questions. This has happened in the last couple of weeks. So you'll understand where it's moving so fast. And that's just, and I'm just talking here about text at the moment. Where Claude's going to go, and they will all go off in different angles. They'll answer the questions, but if you put the same question into those 4 platforms, they'll give you slightly different answers. If I'm asking it one question, give me 6 questions that I could ask a medical student, they'll probably give me very similar questions. But if I ask it to write an article, tell me a story about me in the gym doing a workout. So there's a little bit of emotion involved in that. There's a little bit of the technical side. You'll get 4 quite different answers. They're the text ones. There's also the the text to image. So writing a prompt in natural language. So natural language is what's made AI, generative AI, so much more accessible to us. Natural language means I can ask it a question in English, if you like. And I'm sure, I don't know about Indian, but I know that at least a dozen other languages you can ask ChatGPT in French a question, and you don't have to put technical coding in and sort of all those HTML codes and all that sort of crap that I learned 20 years ago. I can just say, act as a surveyor, act as someone doing a survey. I have a medical student coming in, and I'd like you to give me 5 questions and 5 answers that I could ask that person that are going to really, really help me to find out the real essence, the real type of person this medical student is. And that would be my prompt, that paragraph, that sentence. There's no coding or anything else. Lots of coders are getting worried because it's the jobs are sort of like in question. They're not, for a different reason, but that's natural language. We can use natural language. It makes it so much easier for us to use. But on the other hand, it's not. You have to get the prompts right, and not correct, but you've got to get the prompt right for what you're asking, for what you want to get out. So for my medical student, I could say they're in India, they've gone to medical school in Mumbai, but I live in Australia and I'm employing them in Australia. So what 5 questions could I ask an Indian graduate from medical school coming into an Australian hospital? And so you've got to really understand the question that you can ask it. So I don't want to go into prompts too much because you can find out a lot about that on the internet. But for instance, a prompt, you ask it, act as a surveyor or act as a copywriter. That's the one I use because I do lots of copywriting. Acting as a copywriter, your goal is to write a 1-page document on being a successful entrepreneur. Now, that's certain things in there. I'm asking it to act as a copywriter. If I asked it to act as a surveyor and write me a 1-page document on being an entrepreneur, it would give me a confused answer because that sentence doesn't make sense in English. Because ChatGPT is advanced so much now, it's going to struggle with that question as well. And it will give me an answer, but it'll be an answer that doesn't make sense. So there is a little bit of what they call prompt engineering that you need to learn about and understand and go through. There's so many companies. The training I've just finished, I'm just doing it for the 3rd time next week, actually, because the training, AI changes so much that the training that I first did 9 months ago, 6 weeks, the second round turned into 12 weeks. Same course, but it was 12 weeks. they're starting it again next week, and it's moved on again. A lot of it is training in prompt engineering and getting the right prompts. One of the parts of that course, and I'll put the link for that course up on the chat a little bit later. That course provides me with a booklet of 11,000 prompts. So I can just say life coach, do a search in the document, and it gives me all the prompts, shows me all the word time life coach comes up, and I can pull all those prompts out. So you don't have to learn prompting, but it's an idea to get where you actually want. But that's the sort of it's what you put in. And when I first started computing, they had this GIGO, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't get the right prompt in there, it's going to give you a okay answer, but maybe not quite the right one. So my prompts that I do are always evolving and changing. As I said 2 weeks ago, ChatGPT started to develop an emotional intelligence level. So it changed my prompt. So that's where we are now. ChatGPT 3.5 is what most of us are using. I think there'll be an update fairly shortly. This is the free version. ChatGPT 4 is the paid-for version. That's continuously upgraded. Bard Claude 2 is relatively new. It's only been out a few months. And then we have all the image creation ones, which came along a little bit later after the text program. So with DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Fusion. Midjourney you have to pay for. Stable Fusion is, I'll show you some images later on that I produced for Stable Fusion. Stable Fusion is a free version. And again, for this, you write a prompt. So I'll write in a prompt for an image. I want a picture of a valley with clouds, trees, leaves, branches. Colors will be green, white, blue. There'll be a single person. And that would actually be the prompt, those written words. And Stable Fusion, the image generators there, they take that word prompt and they produce an image for me. Now that takes a bit to tweak it and get the right image. And you could spend all your life trying to get the right image, trying to get the right prompts and the right plot. Does it need to be in the foreground and the background? Does it need to be an illustration? Does it need to be something from the 60s? Does it need to be photorealistic? Does it need to be all sorts of different options, more options than you could imagine. But you can still get onto those image generators and get some great images. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Yes, okay, so whoops, I got too far ahead of myself there. So just quickly here, this is how fast it's come on. Handwritten recognition started sort of pre-2000, so that's 23 years. But if you look at that graph there, that line, the human performance is the benchmark, so 0. It took handwritten recognition about over 15 years to get to a level where AI was recognizing handwritten sentences as well as you could. Look at speech recognition. It was slower to do it. It's still by 2016, it was starting to get to a level of the same as a human. Image recognition, reading comprehension, language understanding. Language understanding has only been sort of 16, 17, 18, couple of years. Now, I wanted to give the quote at the end, but I'll give it now and at the end. You won't be replaced by AI, but you'll be replaced by somebody that's learned AI. And this language understanding, language recognition was one of the first things that came up for me. I can be sitting now, we don't have it on this particular Zoom call, that I can be sitting delivering online like this, and in tandem with my voice in English, I can have it generating several other languages. So you could have this generating in French simultaneously with me, German, Italian, Spanish, probably American as well. They speak a little bit differently over there. So if you're a translator, you've effectively lost your job, because it's going to be a lot easier to employ somebody, employ AI to just generate it rather than employing a person. So all those translators out there need to sort of look at using AI and deciding and figuring out how they can benefit from it. But this is why I was saying a couple of minutes ago, it's changing so fast. This course I'm doing, they're now on the 3rd rendition. It's a different course. It's only been out for just over 6 months. It's changing that fast. Developing emotional intelligence is phenomenal. That means that AI can actually deliver emotions when it's telling you a story. If you want it to write a bit of a novel or a paragraph, it can actually put emotions into it, the right place, the right time, the right level of emotion. That's massive. That's not just regurgitating text that it's changed around and moved. That's actually assessing and understanding and analyzing from an emotional perspective what it's reading and how it can deliver it. Where it's going to be in 6 months is Well, yeah, could be anywhere. I mean, I wouldn't even like to speculate where it's going to go. It's so fast because you have groups of people, especially I love living in Asia. I've lived in Asia for 10 years. I was in Thailand. I was in Myanmar. There's a lot more energy there. For me, although I appreciate that the culture's ancient, for me, it seems like it's young and vibrant. I lived in Myanmar and we had to leave because of the coup, and I've come back to England. I hope there's nobody English on here. I had to come back to England. But it's like Europe is sort of the grandfather, and America's like the middle-aged sort of manager running the company, and they've got the energy, but they're done. And Asia seems to be the sort of the not the teenager, the millennial, with all the energy trying to do everything. And I think this is so well placed AI, and for people in Asia to grasp a hold of generative AI, the concepts of it, and create the programs. So ChatGPT is a program where you get the text, you write the text, it produces the documents for you. It's the add-ons that people are coming in for. So one add-on that I use in LinkedIn, it will come in and I will see a comment. Somebody's put a document or a comment on LinkedIn. The add-on, well, actually, I'll click onto it to answer it. So it will come in, it will have a look at that content. It will generate an answer for me, including the person's name. And so basically, instead of me reading through, thinking about typing it and working out, and then maybe going to ChatGPT and getting the right sort of English and the right pronunciation and a little bit more information, I don't have to do all that, creating the prompt, all that sort of stuff. I can just get this add-on connected to LinkedIn, and it will just produce an answer for me that I can just cut and paste. So instead of it taking me, so before, on a piece of paper, it would have taken me half an hour, maybe 20 minutes to write an answer down. Then I got Word and I got ChatGPT, so I shortened it down a lot to maybe 5 minutes. You've got to think about what the person said, come up with something that's sort of going to answer some of their questions or give another perspective on it. So it takes a few minutes, maybe 5-10 minutes. Now I can just push a button on the app on the side of my computer and it feeds out maybe 5 seconds. That's a bit slow. Maybe 4 seconds, gives me an answer. So instead of it taking me half an hour to write on a piece of paper, it now takes you 4 or 5 seconds. They're the add-ons, and that's where people are starting to come in and I think last count on Google there was 8,000 add-ons. And those add-ons, some of them are incredible add-ons, especially for business where you want to assess your markets. Who are the influencers in the market? So you're producing a widget or you're producing a mobile phone, smartphone. So who are the influencers? Where's the technology going? All these questions. 10 years ago, I would have to go through. I'd struggle to find what was happening overseas. In New Zealand was a pretty small place in those days. Now I have an add-on that I can go in and I can say, look, I'm looking at producing smartphones. What's the market? Literally, what's the market? And it will come back to me and say, well, these are the percentages. Huawei's got this percentage. Apple's got this percentage. These are the price differences. These are the apps. These are the exciting parts of the market. So the generative AI, and I'm not talking about text, I'm talking about these add-ons. That's, I think, where the massive growth industry is. And it's why I'm excited about Asia. It takes people that aren't hung up on systems. So, Asia, in Europe, we've been doing work in business for decades, and this is the way we do it. And we're not going to change so much. America, a little bit more sort of active in doing things, but in Asia they're more likely to say, well, okay, this is the concept, let's see what's next door, or let's go completely over somewhere else and come up with a new idea. So this is where nobody really knows where it's going to go. So I think robotics is a really important part of generative AI. Generative AI is set up to replicate repeatable actions. So they have these big warehouses now in England. I was watching a video the other day in Britain here, where they're the size of a football field, and they're just probably Amazon or one of those companies. They just have all these packages, and there's nobody in there. It's controlled by about 10 people in an office, and you just have these robots that run around the floor and pick up boxes and pack them and put them out for the truck to take. Won't be that long before we have driverless cars and driverless trucks, but the moment these warehouses have nobody in them, it's all generative AI. And that's not new. That's been around for a little while, sort of months or a year or so. Where will it be in 12 months? It'll be like you're sitting there and you ask Siri, and Siri's generative AI. If you've got Siri, ask Siri for a pizza, and 10 minutes later, you'll have a a drone coming knocking at the door saying, here's your pizza. I didn't quite know how you tip a drone, but maybe it'll get cheaper for us. So that's where it can go. So it really takes us to step out of our systems, the patterns that we run, to imagine where we could go with AI. What's that? I just wanted to answer that question, Trish. There, so a few days back, I saw a reel where a robot killed its owner. We can't take risks like this. Isn't robots dangerous to humankind? Let me get on to that question at the end. So I'll just run through this PowerPoint slides that I've got up. I don't want to spend too much time. How fast is ChatGPT learning? By the first quarter of this year, ChatGPT 3.5, ChatGPT 4 were approaching the average pass rate. Now, ChatGPT 4 is doing better than the people that sit the bar exam I think it was in New York. So ChatGPT 4 can produce a better criminal defense attorney prosecution than a human being. On average, it's slightly better than the student average. So the student average there is about 66%. ChatGPT is about 82%. So ChatGPT is doing better than people. And that's not that. So that's the bar exam. That's for law. But across the American education scope, you can see there the dark green is ChatGPT 4. So ChatGPT 4 that I said you pay for before does better at exams. And these are all exams across the states, from LSATs to AP art history, US history, all this sort of stuff. And well, it's the exams that it's looking at doing. We should talk about education a little bit. It's answering the questions in paragraphs. These are not multiple choice questions exams. So what happened was students went, oh, we can use it to write papers. So, okay, this is 6 months ago. So they were writing papers, and then the teachers caught up with it. So the teachers are right, okay, well, we don't know if they're using ChatGPT or not. So we need an add-on to check if they're using ChatGPT. So the teachers, not the teachers, but their programmers, their coders, produced an add-on that can check now whether your document, whether your submission for the exam has been done on ChatGPT or whether you've done it yourself. Great. So the students couldn't do it, but the students had their own coders. So the students produced an add-on that will take a document that's been done by ChatGPT and change it so that the teachers' add-on couldn't tell if the students' ones had been done by people or by computer. So it's always moving on. It's always changing. It's getting very hard to tell with text, whether it's computer generated or human generated. It's getting really difficult now to tell with imagery, whether it's computer generated or whether it's human generated. And in this case, I'm talking about actual images of people. Obviously, art, that could be, it's very difficult. It could be either way, but actual pictures of people, really getting seriously difficult to tell. A few weeks ago, month ago or so, the problem with imagery was that it couldn't figure out the length of people's hands, their fingers. So there was a great picture of one of the Kardashians that she'd taken, but it wasn't her because her fingers were twice as long as they should be. The rest of her looked like a Kardashian, the same sort of figure shape, but it was the hands that gave it away. But that was a couple of weeks ago. They've changed that, so it's getting a lot harder. They're getting to structure the hands of images of people a lot better. So ChatGPT 3 is doing as well as people. ChatGPT 4 is doing better than most people and most exams across the spectrum in the States. Now this is I'm talking about the States there, but this is across the world. This is not just ChatGPT is international. AI is international. It's not one country. I know in England here they have a problem because the education system can't keep up. They're probably the biggest fallout. The fallout that's going to happen the soonest is education. It can't keep up. Teachers are struggling to understand how they can utilize ChatGPT or AI. Students are fully conversed at it. I was listening to a program on the BBC radio the other day where the students 11-year-olds were explaining to their teachers how it worked and how they were using it, how they were doing the homework. So education I don't know that education can catch up. So your children, if you're listening right now, and you've got children, they're using ChatGPT to write things up. You won't be able to tell unless they do images and the fingers are still a bit long. Generative AI, so these are I've already talked about these. ChatGPT there at the top, that's the one that most people use. As I said, there's over 7 million people on it at any one time using it. Most people are still using it as a search engine. How high is the Statue of Liberty, those sort of things. So most people have just graduated across from Google to ChatGPT. And as I said, Google, Microsoft, they couldn't compete. They had to come out with something themselves. So Google have produced Bard, which is pretty good. Google have put their own limits on it. Bing is the Microsoft one. Bing is fascinating. So ChatGPT has a limit. They call them tokens. You can't write a book with it. You break it down and you do chapters. There's a way around it. I've been using computing. I've been doing computing since we used to have cardboard cards with punch holes in them. So I've gone through the whole rendition of what we've had with computing. Bing is the first program on the internet that I've had to go into and change the coding, because for some reason they set it to 25,000 characters, 25,000 words, which is not really enough if you're writing a 5-page document. But they've shown us how to go in and change the coding on it. So Bing, you can change it. They will actually probably, that was 2 weeks ago, so they've probably changed it by now. So you can write quite big chapters of books on Bing, ask it questions, get it to expand on stuff, and it eventually will write an extended, whatever you're writing about, medical student that's writing about a particular operation, the history of it, the intricacies of it, all that sort of stuff. You can get it onto Bing and write it up. Bing is slightly different to to ChatGPT. Remember before I said ChatGPT was brought up to about a year ago, and they stopped at learning what's happening today. Bing, you can use, there's a couple of different ways of doing it to get it to explain to you what's happening today. So you could ask Bing, what's the story in the Middle East? And it would come up with an answer of what's happening today. If you ask ChatGPT, it would come up with an answer, but it would be a historical answer. Claude is the last one, and then that's the one that's becoming more preferential for people that are used to using ChatGPT to produce content. Claude seems to be evolving better answers at the moment. So if my medical student asks a question about an operation, can you give me the history, the intricacies, who are the pioneers, and this sort of thing, Claude will give you the fuller answer. So these are just the text programs, and they're all free. ChatGPT 3 is free. You can pay for the upgrade. Claude has an upgrade. But basically, they're all available, doing pretty much everything you need for free. Don't have to pay for them. These are some of the more interesting generative AIs. Now, these are not necessarily for text. These can be technical questions. You can answer them. They can be the add-ons. The next one I wanted to talk about was the text to imagery. So DALL-E is I think it's no, I'm going to get it wrong. DALL-E is the one connected to Bing. Stable Fusion. So if you go Stable Fusion AI, you'll find that's a image generator, and that's for free as well. DALL-E's for free. Midjourney is probably the best one at the moment, but you've got to pay for it. But of course, they're just two, text and imagery. You can basically, generative AI means taking information and generating something different. So you can do 3D modeling. The big thing now is text to video. So one of my colleagues is writing out some text, putting it into an app, and the app is producing the video with her voice overlaid on it. So rather than her filming herself, it's just a voiceover. Or she can do she can get an AI generated human form to voice over the video. And this is all done on AI. Text to speech, text to audio, text to code. You can actually speak code, and ChatGPT will produce the code. So it's really, you're only limited by your imagination on what a generative AI can do. It's the world's our oyster, really. It can do anything. There's a couple of questions there. I'll answer them later on. I just saw one on pollution and the environment. Absolutely. Because what will happen with generative AI is you ask it a question, it goes out onto the internet, finds some answers, and then you can expand on them. You can ask it to look at different data points, put them together, what could evolve from that. So there's all sorts of ways that you can use generative AI to do things. So if you just wanted to take a shot, there's a screen print of that. There's some of the free AI products out there that you could use. ChatGPT, Go Charlie Longshot for copywriting. Copywriting's what I use it for most. Let me go on and show you what I use it for. So as a coach, let me just bring that up. As a coach, I produce a lot of documents, answers to people. I'm generating a lot of information, and it's helped me immensely, because before I would produce a document, some quotes, some questions, but I'd have to write it out. I'd have to think about it. I'd have to build it and sort of expand on it. It would take me a day to do that. I do that on Monday morning now. And I produce volumes. I produce every Monday morning. I produce about 30 pages of content, different types of content that I can produce, that I can use. Some of it goes on LinkedIn, some of it goes on Facebook, some of it goes on Substack, some of it goes to Amazon, to my book that I'm producing on Amazon. So the copywriting is something that I use it for the most. So I just want to show you quickly here what I've done this weekend. So this is a book that I produced. So everything on this book, on this ebook, has been produced by AI, basically. I think I've changed probably about 2 to 3% of it. You obviously, when you do this, you want to check it, go through, make sure that it's following a sequence, that it's got the right information and the right language, the right wording. So you do need to check it, but it's got to the point now where you don't really need to check it. So this is an ebook that I produced. I'll put this, if anybody's interested, I'll share this in the chat. All that imagery is just a prompt, and I'm just changing the prompt slightly to produce quite different images in the background there. The typeset there is from a prompt. It was what I've done with this prompt work here is I've supplied it with so this is actually, if we go back to the start there, this is actually about our financial barriers, the limits, the problems we have, the challenges we have with wealth and abundance. So basically it was, what mental blocks are people going to have in their relationship to money and wealth and abundance? And what it did was it came up with 5 financial shadows. So 5 mental states that we can get into that stop us earning the money we'd like to earn. Now, all the structure here, the titles, the headings, was all done by AI. So it's produced all that content from me with a very limited prompt. It's produced this. And there's not a lot here. It's produced a couple of pages, a couple of A4 pages of content in imagery. And then we put it into another program to put it all together into this ebook. So that's what I use it for, mostly, is to produce this content. So on a typical Monday, I'll just quickly show you. Here we go. Let me just do this here. I need a third screen. It's a big problem. This is the problem I have with AI. I can do so many things at once now. I need a third screen. 2 screens is not enough. So you don't need to read all this. It's just to appreciate the volume of work that I'm putting out with AI. Okay, let me share that screen. So on a typical Monday morning, I'll be aiming to do a podcast on Friday night. Friday night, my time in England, would be like 1 o'clock in the morning for you guys in India and Asia, unfortunately. So Monday morning, it takes me a couple of hours to produce this. But basically, this is all the content I'm going to run. So what we've got there is we've got all my marketing for it, my short ones, my quotes that I'll put up on Facebook. And I have a couple of images that I put up on Facebook, on LinkedIn as well. Then I have a bit of the content, and then I go into the document. So I have a 2-3 page document that I'm producing. That AI is producing. So basically, this is all the document that it's produced. And I can use that in different forms. That's what I put on Substack. So people that want to go into the subject we're going to talk about, they get a lot more information on it here. So then I come up with headlines, paragraphs. Some people want to, so we all have different ways of assimilating information. Some of us want to see it visually. Some of us want to hear it. Some of us want to understand it on a different level, visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Some of us want to understand the sense, the feeling. What am I going to get from this? So I write these different paragraphs. They go up on social media to interact with people's different ways of learning. So I might put up three different paragraphs in one day that will connect with different people. You read something and you get that past the first sentence and you give up. It just doesn't connect with you. And you read something else and suddenly it seems to jump out of the page at you. So this is what I'm using AI for. So it's producing paragraphs for me, different types of ways I do it to put that on LinkedIn. There's a couple of pages of paragraphs there. Then from that document at the start, they'll pull out half a dozen quotes. So again, on social media, I'll just put up a quote every now and then. I put stuff on social media about once every 4 hours. Across 10 Facebook groups and about 6 LinkedIn groups. So I do social media quite a lot, which is why I have so much content here. Now I also set up that's a poll. So I have a series of questions that I can ask, and they get really good response on LinkedIn. What do we got down here? Then I also want to do a script. When I'm doing a podcast, I don't follow a script, but I want to have an idea to keep the flow going. So I get AI to write me a script, a 20-minute podcast. This particular one is in the voice of what's his name? Oh, God, I can't remember his name. What is his name? Anyway, whatever his name is. So I've actually written the script in the name of a prominent, might be Russell Brand, it might be Barack Obama, it might be somebody that's really engaging. If any of you are into personal development, Tony Robbins, he's somebody else that I ask the AI, act as Tony Robbins and write out a script on the 5 financial shadows. And it will write a script for me the way that Tony Robbins, the nuances, the way he speaks. So he's quite flamboyant and he uses big words and lots of movement and bouncing around the stage. I can't do that on Zoom, but the particular sort of words he uses, they're all very positive. They're all very engaging. They're all very, he talks about feelings a lot. So, or I could get it to write in Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister at the moment. He's very, went to private school. He's very formal in the way that he speaks. And he doesn't use feeling words. It's all technical. And so he speaks a different way. So I can ask ChatGPT to write in different voices. Now, because I don't follow a script, what I also do is I get ChatGPT to write out bullet points for me. So it's like I've set up a mind map for myself. So when I'm actually delivering the podcast, I have, in this case, 5 points, short sentence there that tells me what I'm going to speak about. Then it also has CTA, call to action. So what things can I put on social media that are going to make people feel that they need to talk to me about coming in, being coached by me. So I coach entrepreneurs and business people. So there we go. So we have 61 pages of content there. It takes me a couple of hours on Monday morning. So for 4.5 days for the rest of the week, if I have the weekend off, I'm just marketing. Now, to produce 60 pages of content a year ago, I wouldn't have even started. I wouldn't have even tried to do it. Most of it I use, but it's basically, before I came on here, I was putting something on a couple of groups, one group in Australia. When I get off, I'll go into LinkedIn because for me, I'm in Europe. A lot of the content that I put out goes out in the morning for me because people tend to go on social media, LinkedIn in the morning in Europe because that's 2 a.m. in the morning in America. So I need to jump on LinkedIn in the afternoon, late evening here to connect with the American group. So that's why I put it on several times a day, different things to connect with different groups around the world, because a lot of us are working and we're not geographically stuck. We're dealing with markets all over the world. So I can do that now because I don't spend anywhere near as much time producing content, and it's all there. It's made my life easier because I can do the content, but it's made it harder because now I can get the content out there a lot more. So the last thing I wanted to say was there's this thing about, I was listening to a great guy talk the other day, and it was saying when computers came out first, we were going to have all this free time, and because computers are going to save us all this time, and it didn't. It just gave us more work to do. And I think we're very quickly already within 12 months heading down that path to AI. I don't have to focus on the content writing. Hasn't shortened my time working. I'm just changed from content writing to actual marketing and connecting with people. So it's a different approach to what I'm doing, but it's definitely not saving me any time. And I think it's with most of that content there, to get 4 or 5 pages of content, I would have half a page of prompt. And as I said, my prompts keep changing. So there are companies that will produce, as I said, the course I'm doing, they've got 11,000 prompts. But those prompts are from 6 months ago. Well, they have nothing about emotional intelligence. And that's just the EQ that I'm talking about there is a significant one, but it's moved on so much in 6 months that those 12,000 prompts are so out of date. That prompts, for me, the way I use it is the prompts keep moving. They keep changing for me and evolving, moving forward. So I don't think it's changed, but that quote that I mentioned halfway through, I'll just say that again. You're not going to lose your job because of AI, but you will lose it to a person that is using AI. It's the biggest thing, Elon Musk said, it's the biggest thing since the printing press. It's been around for a long time. Alexa has been in a lot of people's houses, especially in the States, for years. And that's AI. And where it's going, I mean, I get lots of news, and I was on a course this morning, actually, and I learned something new. There's so many people that you can't sort of tap into all the information that's coming out, and you really have to sort of focus on what can I use it for? What's going to help me? It's really great. I love doing those images, but I do that on the weekend because I have free time on the weekend. It's such a waste of my time to spend half hour producing a very nice painting, very nice image, but really I might use it, I might not use it. So we have to be very careful that we don't get carried away using the technology to learn and not do anything with. What's that old saying? It's not knowledge isn't power, it's how you use the knowledge is the power. And this is very much about AI. It's not about AI, it's about how we use it. Okay, I better wrap up now. there's a few questions there. Shall I go through the questions? Let me just bring that up.
Yeah, okay. I have got a question. Can I ask you?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to ask you, is AI a alternative to natural intelligence?
I was listening to a seminar the other day that was talking about artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is something that can't, it can only build from what it's got. But as I said before, it's developing emotional intelligence. So what's happening is it's learning on itself. So it's starting to develop its own natural learning. There's an add-on, an app, an AI app that's produced its own language that the programmers, the coders, don't understand. It's produced something it knows, but humans don't. So you could say maybe it's producing its own natural understanding, its own natural information. It's taken pretty much everything off the net, and it's still growing. And this is why they say they don't really know where it's going to go, because it's got to that point now where it's starting to develop itself. It's starting to learn on what it's learned, and the danger is, of course, it could go anywhere. Could go all over the place. So I don't know I can really answer that. Or is that maybe that's answered it? It's producing its own natural understanding, its own natural language, and it's producing its own language as well, this AI language that it understands. Let me answer some of these questions. I saw a reel where a robot killed its owner. We can't take risks. This is one of the big problems, I think. They don't know the Elon Musk, and they've just had a big seminar in the UK on this. They're not sure how much they can control it. Once it's it's produced its own language, how much can we control it? So I've heard they've had problems with it, but I mean, the robotics today are just phenomenal for their agility. So you have a physical robot that can stand on one leg and do forward flips and back flips, and you have other robots that can run like dogs. They have that dexterity, that amount of sort of development in the reflexes and the engineering. So I think that's one of the worries, is that they need to be able to control this. I'm pretty sure they will. I mean, guys like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they didn't get to where they are being idiots. They employ the right people. They want to do the right thing, but they also, then there's that balance, as I said before, that balance of they don't want to be second. Netscape was the second web browser. It's gone. It's history. It's disappeared years ago. Google won't, but there was a period there where it was like, if people use ChatGPT to ask questions, why are they using Google to search? So they want to be at the front, but they're not quite sure what they're leading. I would like to think that they will have the controls to make sure that the robots don't get carried away doing things like that. There is the risk. Yeah, we could do another whole podcast on that. What mechanisms should be in place to ensure AI systems are transparent, explainable, accountable, basically that we can control them? Yeah. I think that's why they're having these big forums. They've just had one in the UK. There's one going on in Europe. I think at the moment there's one in America last week. So there are stepping up ways of starting to take control of this. Why can't we use AI in a very useful manner like sustainable development for improving rivers, lakes? There are lots of people using it for the betterment of mankind. I think ChatGPT is just giving me a lot more work to do. I don't think that's doing better for me in producing content. But for me personally, I can get my information across. As I said before, we all have different ways of learning. So some of us learn visually, some of us we have to listen to something. Some of us have to hear it. And some of us have to get a feeling, a sense of what it is. So with ChatGPT, I can have an article, a paragraph, and I can write it 3 different ways to connect with those 3 different people. So I'm using it in a useful manner, if you like. The question there is about improving the...
John, can I ask you another question?
Go on. Let me just finish this question first.
Okay.
So more extensive things, improving the environment, reducing plastic. Absolutely. Growing plants. There's AI is being used extensively in the medical service, in the medical area, to do things that surgeons were struggling with. A really intricate operation that might wear a doctor out and he could do 2 a week. Well, if he has an AI, robot that can do that, well, the robot's not going to wear out. So instead of 2 operations a week, the hospital could do 5, 10 operations a week. So there are a lot. It's really limited by us, how it can help us save the environment. I think one of the problems is that a lot of the amount of information is massive, and you need these huge computer data banks, and they're moving to Asia because the power's cheaper down there than it is in the States or Europe. So there's things like sustainability that need to be looked at, and AI is definitely something that could be used to do that. Sanjay, you had a question.
Yeah, in fact, I was just reading one article where it was saying that AI will be very helpful for medicine and medical purposes, where you will not require any investigations or any tests and any kind of things. Just look at the eyes of a patient and you'll be able to tell everything about the patient.
Well, that's interesting, because the inside of the eyes tells us, it's the first indication of so many diseases that we have. But AI, by taking those images, can assess the images. Whereas a doctor might miss something, they might have to look at a whole lot. They're using their own mind to compare things, whereas AI has got all the information there. So it will give lot faster prognosis if the injury or what the problems are. But I think, and this is, I think it's a tool that surgeons and anybody, business people as well, it's a tool that they should bring on to use in part of what they're doing. As I said, you're going to lose your job you're not going to lose it to AI, you're going to lose it to somebody that's using AI. So a doctor that's using his own knowledge is going to be limited. A doctor that's using his own knowledge and AI is going to have much more information at his fingertips. And the medical service is somewhere where they are really pushing it out there. But business is the same. Technology, it's going into lots of different areas. There's just so much going on. It's open source. Microsoft got control of the internet because they produced this platform, and we all use the same platform. But AI's been given away free, so everybody's using it for different things. It's a really exciting time to be alive. I wish I was all your age. I'm sort of a little bit older, and I'm probably going to see the sort of the ending of it. But yeah. Definitely.
John, another question I would like to ask you. Will AI be a replacement, or will it displace the labor or manpower? One question. And another question is, Elon Musk I think Tesla was trying for a carless, driverless car. Will AI help in that?
Well, I told you the story about that big warehouse here in the UK, that there's nobody on the floor. It's all just driverless carts that go around the floor of the warehouse, and they pick up whatever item needs to be picked up. The trucks come in. It's 2 levels. The trucks come in and they offload the products, different products, and the products get put up to the second floor. The robots know where each item is, and they just go and they collect all the items for that one customer. So if you're a supermarket and you need, a box of tomato sauce and 24 tins of baked beans, that would take somebody in a forklift going around a huge warehouse. Now there's no human on the warehouse. So that basic repetitive laboring job will go away. AI will take it over. But you have a much more educated workforce now in Europe and America and Asia, where people will step up and they're more able to use it as a tool. So a robot's only as good as the information going in.
Okay, John, last question I would like to ask you. Sorry, I'm asking you questions. One more question. How would AI impact the future education, and which subjects are going to be more important?
I actually have a client. She's a solo mum, and she has a real problem with a teenage daughter, because a teenage daughter's like, why do I need to go to school? Elon Musk didn't. Steve Jobs didn't. Steve Jobs went to first year at local college, and Elon Musk didn't. So she's having a problem because she's trying to get a daughter to go and get an education, and the guys that are in the movers and shakers in the world haven't. So the education system, the problem with the education system is that it was brought in line to teach us something from last century. And artificial intelligence, as I was saying before, the kids in England here the 11-year-old kids are explaining to their teachers how it works. I mean, it's only really I've been using it, and I was an early adopter, so since February, which is not even a year, just coming up to a year. That and children, when I was young, we had encyclopedia books, and you used to go out and you used to go through and find it. Now they just ask the question on the internet. The problem is that because they cut and paste stuff, they don't learn it. And so I think where AI, I think the education system has to change to be much more flexible, but teach the kids how to learn, because they can collect the information. They've got a smartphone. You ask them a question, they don't even have to type it in anymore. They just speak it in and gives them the answer.
Right.
But how, knowledge isn't power. So they've got all that knowledge at their fingertips. It's how they use it. And that's where the education system.
Yeah, last question, John. How is this AI going to impact management and technology, what you call it, subject?
I coach entrepreneurs, business people, and we were talking before we came on air about the different ways of assessing employees. So you have Myers-Briggs and PRISM methodology. I'm a predictive index trainer. And it's a coaching system, but predictive index is, and it's, you won't have heard of it probably because it's $25,000 to bring into a company. It's not in lots of companies. Really effective, but what it does is it assesses the employee and it develops a coaching system for them. So they have a coaching learning system that they can go through on a technical level within the company, but on a personal level as well. So they have a learning evolution they can go through. Now, the employer gets the same thing about them. So the employer works with that employee on their coaching thing. And this is not extensive. This is something that they do for a few minutes or 10 minutes, 15 minutes a day. That costs $25,000 with predictive index. Well, you can put a couple of prompts into AI, to ChatGPT, and get the same thing. So as far as management goes, it will put a lot more power into the learning for the employee and the employer, which is really what millennials in England here in Britain, they're after. They've left school, but they want to keep learning. You can't sort of wait until AI is slowed down now because it's changing so fast. So you need to keep learning. And youngsters say, I mean, I've never left school, but youngsters today are more in that learning phase. So I think as far as management goes, you'll be able to use it. But again, it's not the knowledge, it's how you use it. So whether it's the 3 hats method or predictive index or some other model that you use for managing people, for employing people, for employment contracts, for all sorts of HR stuff, that's all at your fingertips. And it's not a matter of this is the form we've used for the last 5 years. This is the latest form that's got all the latest government requirements in it, the latest up-to-date employment package that we offer with the regulations in it. So I think it will, and that means, you might be 25 and getting the coaching to sort of evolve yourself, but at 45, you're still going to be in a learning phase to keep up with this information that's coming in. How is it usable? How good is it? What do I need to use? I don't need to use that part of it. So I think it's fascinating for management and companies because they can become a lot more productive, but they do need to learn how to use the knowledge.
Okay, John, another question which has come in mind that if we are
last one.
yeah, last one, right? If we are not able to control AI, like you said that there should be controls, right? If we're not able to control AI, can it pose a danger to mankind?
As a question that we asked before, there is that risk, and this is why they're having these big forums at the moment. But on the other side, so there is that awareness of the risk. But on the other side, Elon Musk said, there's a massive risk, but I can't afford to be second place. So he's investing in it heavily. Google couldn't afford to be in second place because they would have disappeared. There was a risk that they would have not been here today. So they know there's a risk, but they can't afford to become second. And in investing and pumping billions of dollars into it, they're pushing it, they're keeping it moving along. So these forums generated by the governments in America, England, and Europe are looking at the ways of keeping control of it so it doesn't get out of hand. Now, most of it is education, medical field, there's no risk to mankind there. I think, and again, it comes back to that saying, it's the awareness of the knowledge. It's that's not power, it's how you use it. So people have to be able to sit back and assess it. If I produce a document, I don't just cut and paste it onto Facebook. I actually look at it and go, no, shit, that doesn't make sense, or that's the wrong term, or there's the wrong message going there. So I do need to assess it. So it's not AI, the output is not the end answer. It's a tool to help us get to the end answer. So I think we really got to keep that in mind. And I think that's the government's message, is that we want to be at the forefront of the development, but we want to make sure that it's not getting out of hand. But it's a little bit of a grey area, Sanjay. It's a risk that's been expressed by Elon Musk and governments. So they're aware of it. They're trying to keep control of it. Okay,
Thanks,
all right.
Thanks, John. Yeah.
No problem. Thanks, Sanjay, for the questions. There's a couple more up here. I'll just go through what are applications and limitations of AI? Can we work without AI in the modern world, and why? AI is limited by your imagination. That's why I said it's exciting in Asia, because for me, just general in the business world, there's a lot more energy. Whereas in Europe, everyone's been doing it for so long that it's like, this is how we did it 10 years ago. We're still, we'll keep up, but they keep exporting stuff to Asia because it's more dynamic down there. So the applications and the Elon Musk is using AI for all sorts of things to get mankind to Mars. So he's not being limited by the geography of the Earth, the planet. I think one of the limitations of is people that are trying to make money out of it, and they start to control it. So I said before, ChatGPT 3.5 has a time limit on it, so it can't give you up-to-date news and technology that's happening today. It had a block put on it for about 12 months ago. There are add-ons to get around that, so it's not actually true what the actual program is set up like that, but we have add-ons to get around it. So limitations, again, it's limited by you. As for can we work without it, I don't personally know, because as Elon Musk says, it's moving so fast, you're either going to be at the forefront of it, keeping up with it. If you're a teacher and you're not using it, your students are telling you what's going on. I think when it first started to come up, nothing was being said because the kids are pretty savvy with tech stuff. They were onto it, and they got onto it. And I read something in America. They first started to notice it because the grades in the school started to go up for no reason. The kids started to get better marks, and the teachers are like, what's this happening? So the kids are on it. I think that's a good reason for saying we need to. You can't, if the youngsters are on it today, we need to be up to speed with it. I don't think we can live without it. It needs to be controlled. It needs to be monitored for sure. Explain. We got a regulation. So I just covered that one.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir.
No problem. So we got regulations, employment, balance, growth. I think I've covered a lot of that. They're trying to bring regulations in, but of course they can't because, when ChatGPT isn't owned by Microsoft, a company based in America. AI and ChatGPT is international. Nobody controls it. Microsoft might control DALL-E, the image creator, but somebody else controls Midjourney. So you could use the other one. If you don't like that one, you go with the other one. So yes, it needs regulations. How they're going to bring regulations in, I don't know. I mean, I had to leave Myanmar because of the coup, and they were very connected in when I left, and the military stepped in and tried to stop it. And there was all sorts of ways around it. So even in that situation, in that country, there's all sorts of ways around the internet connection. AI's got no chance. Keeping in mind the danger of AI, what would you like to suggest upcoming students, the courses they should go for in the future? I think education is probably the big one with AI. Education was sort of set up to teach us the 4 R's, reading, arithmetic, and writing. And that's last century. The whole way that we learn and live in the world is changed, and the education system is struggling to catch up. So do I need to learn mathematics? Well, yes and no. It's like the daughter of the woman that I was telling you about. Daughter's like, but Steve Jobs didn't go to university. Elon Musk didn't go to university. There's a great quote from Henry Ford. He had a guy come into the office and he said, so what's this? How does this work on the car? And Henry Ford said, well, I don't know. And the guy said, but you own Ford Motors. You're building cars. You don't know how? And he said, I don't, but I know a guy that does. And he called one of his engineers up. Henry Ford didn't need to know how to build the cars. He employed the people that built the cars. So I think going to education, it's sort of, understanding what do I need to learn, and then being very flexible about it, and understanding that if I have a question, a problem, I don't even now have to type it in. I can speak it to Siri. I can speak my Huawei here. I just speak a question into it. Who's going to win the cricket tomorrow? I don't know. Let's try. I don't know that it'll give me an answer to the future. That's my limitation, of course. When I get off, I'm going to try and see if Siri will tell me who's going to win the cricket tomorrow. All right. I think that's all the questions. Thank you. Thank you for all staying on and listening. I hope that's been entertaining, informative. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. What a wonderful knowledge given by you, sir. I hope our audience learned many new things from this session. I would like to highlight some of the points like language and image recognition capabilities of AI system have improved rapidly. Efficiency and productivity gains are two other big benefits that organizations get from using AI. AI generate text to images, better quality and reduction of human error. One can expect a reduction of error from using AI. It was a very effective for our audience. So, again, thank you for joining us and sharing your experience, your precious time and knowledge with us. So, there are a few more questions which our audience wants to be answered. So, with your permission, shall we start?
Absolutely. Cool. No problem. I've just put the document on the chat if anybody'd like to download it. It's just an example. So that was all produced with AI. So the imagery from Stable Fusion and the text content from ChatGPT. So that was all done free.
So the first question is, how is the relationship between human and AI is evolving?
Interesting question. How is it evolving? I think AI, ChatGPT has developed an emotional intelligence. So ChatGPT is now responding to emotional inputs into prompts, and it's learned that because ChatGPT learns it's going along. So when I'm putting prompts in, it's learning who I am. So if I ask a question, medical students. So the medical students coming to Australia. So I've asked some questions about that, and then I say, tell me about that part of India that medical student's from. And ChatGPT's learned, okay, that person several prompts back comes from Mumbai. So ChatGPT goes back, oh, they're from Mumbai, and it gives me some of the points about that town, that city, sorry. So it's evolving and learning the emotions, it's picking off other people. Obviously, it's a machine, so it doesn't have emotions. How much it can express emotions is only in the words. The videos, that'll be an interesting evolution. I think that will come out in months. I coach people. Now, if I'm coaching a business person, there's two sides of it. There's the technical side. So, okay, are you looking at employing people? What contracts have you got? What sort of this? What's your business model? The technical stuff of coaching. The sort of the more mental part of the coaching that I would do would be on. So, what's your vision and what are your goals and how do you feel about those goals? And let's expand on those goals a little bit. So, as a coach, I have two different angles. Now, ChatGPT can do the technical side, can ask those questions. What's your timeline? Have you got all the paperwork? But it's starting to evolve a coaching persona as well. You can actually, it will ask you how your mental resilience is out of 10. How do you feel about the business? What's your vision for the business? So it's getting a little bit more into the mental side of the person that it's talking to. So I actually set it up now and then. If I'm doing a podcast, I'll get ChatGPT to interview me. So I will say, act as a radio interviewer, and the subject is medicine in India, so the medical service in India. Ask me questions about it, and each time I ask a question, build on it and ask me a subsequent connected question, and we can have a conversation. So it's, again, we don't really know where it's going to evolve, but there's a lot of interaction between the screen, the computer, AI, and the person. Now it's evolved to the point where you can already have an animated image of a person on the screen, and they speak the questions and you answer the questions, and you have a conversation that is building. It's not just a question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. It's actually a question on what's been said, and then the next question is on what's been said subsequently. So it's again limited by your imagination. Does that help?
Yeah, thank you, sir, for answering this question. There is one more question. How can we ensure that AI is used in a responsible and ethical way?
What I'd like to see, I think mathematics and language are really important in school and education, but morals and ethics are just as important. That's for me. This is my personal opinion. Education needs to start teaching morals and ethics. Historically, it's been the parents, the religion that perhaps encourage that understanding, whereas in the West now you don't get as many nuclear families. There's a lot more kids that grow up with no father. Religion in the West isn't as predominant. It's sort of fading out. So where do we learn our morals and ethics from? And going to the question there about AI, well, that's morals and ethics. Is doing this the right thing to do? I think Microsoft, Bill Gates. And there's two sides to Bill Gates. You can argue either way with Bill Gates. But what he did was one of his aims was to take computers into Africa. So you've got these youngsters at school that are getting really tech savvy really fast within a generation. That's going to create a young generation that's got so much more knowledge than their parents and can help build that country. So there can be some really positive stuff come out of this.
That was a very good piece of advice, sir. Thank you again, sir, for answering these questions. Thank you all for attending today's webinar. And if you have any additional question, you can contact us by email or telephone. We are happy to provide additional support to you. Please follow us on our social media and subscribe YouTube channel for new learning.